And for more on the discussion between China and the Czech Republic relations, we are joined here in the Beijing studio, Mr. Cui Hongjian, who is the director of the Department of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. Welcome, sir, to our program. Meanwhile, joining us from Prague in the Czech Republic, we're having Mr. Kohout, who is the advisor to the President of the Czech Republic. Welcome to our program. And he's also the president of the new Silk Road Institute in Prague. Meanwhile, joining us from London in the UK, we're having Mr. Roderic Wye, who is Associate Fellow of the Asia Program at Chatham House. Welcome to the three of you, gentlemen. First of all, Mr. Cui, what can we expect from the very first state visit by Chinese head of state, 67 years?
Yes, anyway, it's a long time, exactly. But I think at this time, it's called a kind of a historic visit by head state of China. So I think certainly it will give a very, very big impetus to this bilateral relation between China and the Czech Republic. Because as we know, indeed, we need a kind of a new definition of these bilateral relations, maybe a strategic one or comprehensive one. And of course, secondly, it will give more, push to this economic and trade cooperation between two countries. But of course, maybe more important thing is it gives a big chance for both two societies, peoples, to get a more mutual understanding.
All right, Mr. Kohout, I see you standing in front of a beautiful scenery in Prague. Wonderful over there. Great to have someone also from the Czech Republic, very first time for our program, in fact. So big congratulations. But on the other hand, what can we expect from your perspective?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good evening from Prague, and I can only underline what was said. It's a really historical visit. So the Czech Republic, or the former Czechoslovakia, was the third country in the world which recognized the People's Republic in China, and now we have the excellent opportunity to welcome the President Xi Jinping here. In my view, it reflects the fast and speedy development and very positive development between China and Czech Republic in the last 3 years. Those years when we have the castle, which you can see behind me, President Miloš Zeman, who attaches a great importance to development and developing the relations with China, being it on the political level and also on the economic level, but we are going also to focus on the people-to-people exchanges.
Right. At this moment.
Second reason for the visit, I would say, this time is also the okay.
Mr. Kohout, is that what about the Belt and Road initiatives? Because I understand many in your country are expecting more to come with China's Belt and Road initiative for the development of the Czech Republic. At this moment, it's still a railway line linking Hungary and also Serbia, which also goes through the Czech Republic. What would that mean for your economy and your infrastructure?
First, I would say that it's a great initiative, Belt and Road, because it's not close to anyone. It's based on the inclusiveness. It's open on the mutually win-win basis. So for the Czech Republic, it's a great opportunity to develop our ties with China and with other Asian countries. You have talked about mainly about the hard infrastructure, how I call it. That means the railways and roads, but we have to add to that, in my view, also the other layers of the One Belt One Road, like the aviation Silk Road, communication Silk Road, academic Silk Road. So we have the Silk Roads in many layers. So it's a multi-level initiative in our views, and it's giving the opportunities on both sides.
Mr. Cui, though, all of these different layers of the Silk Road, whether it is railway or aviation or communication, has a lot to do with the time because we are not only seeing the plan. So what could be the input from the other side, meaning the Czech Republic, to make sure that this Belt and Road initiative, when going through the Czech Republic, is going to work and also going to work on various layers? It's not just China putting the cash over there.
Yes, exactly. Because so far we can find active attitude from Czech Republic to this initiative. And of course, as I understand that maybe there will not be every country in that region will join the transportation or railway, because I think this cooperation in the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative should take more some example with more cooperation between different countries. And of course, we need to reach a complementary cooperation. Just like our Czech guest mentioned that maybe now from Czech Republic, maybe aviation, financial, and some other cooperation.
Yeah. But what does that mean? I mean,
yes.
Czech Republic, of course, is one of those quite significant countries in Central and Eastern European
sure.
bloc, region rather. So what would that mean, China's intense exchange with this country mean for China's presence in the region and also China's future interaction with some of the others inside also Central and Eastern European countries?
Yeah, sure. We can take some, advantages of Czech Republic into account. For example, how about the geographic advantage of Czech Republic in Central Europe? So once there are more connectivity between Central and Eastern European countries, certainly Czech Republic will play very, very important role. And secondly, how about the very, very big tradition for manufacturing in Czech Republic? So now we are looking for more and more cooperation, especially when China want to have some more cooperation in the capacity of products. So I think there will be more complementary cooperation between China and the Czech Republic in manufacturing and even some technology.
We'll see what's going to happen. But it is not just the business ties, it's also the cultural ties, cultural exchanges and people-to-people exchanges have mentioned by our two guests coming from China and the Republic of Czech Republic have been quite, in a way, noteworthy. For the Chinese born in the 1970s and 80s, the little character in Krtek, the first foreign cartoon series introduced into China, remained a very highly pleasant childhood memory. Meanwhile, Smetana's symphonic cycle Marvelast and also The Good Soldier Schweck are also familiar masterpieces in China. Last year, the two countries also jointly produced a new cartoon series called Krtek and Panda. Well, a lot of new inventions over there also for the younger generation between these two countries. But having said that though, Mr. Kohout, I have to ask you, all these cultural exchanges sounds wonderful, but when you look at the history between the Czech Republic and China, one might find it in different stages. First of all, during the Cold War era, of course, the Czechoslovakia belonged to the so-called Soviet bloc. There were certain kinds of ups and downs in the relations. Then, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Czech Republic changed politically. Of course, the relations with China also varied as a result. And now we're looking at a very new stage of the bilateral relations. How would you interpret these ups and downs? What would that mean for the maturity, rather, of the bilateral relations? Mr. Kohout.
I have to say that the culture relation or the culture exchanges a part of our bilateral relations very important. So we have excellent political relations, we have excellent economic ties. It will be reflected by signing of the declaration of the strategic partnership. But we have to much more look into the mutual understanding between our great people and knowing more about our, let's say, rich history and culture. The Czech Republic is known in China, and China is very well known here. And there is a great interest in all the exhibitions which were here in the Czech Republic in the last couple of years, or the performances like was the Beijing Opera. So I think that entering a new phase of our bilateral cooperation and relations will also increase this type of cooperation, be it the exchanges or even, as you have mentioned, so the joint projects in the culture.
We've been talking about the beautiful present here, but it is only a mature relationship that one could be able to reflect back about the history and also look forward to the future. Therefore, I have to ask the same question to you again, Mr. Cui. What about the ups and downs in history over the past 6 and 7 decades in terms of the bilateral relations? How much would that, in a way, provide us with lessons and inspirations for the next stage of development?
Yeah, exactly. Indeed, I mean, for this bilateral relations between China and Czech Republic, we do have some difficult times in the past. I think that maybe the main obstacles for this bilateral relations is maybe a kind of a change of political environment, and especially how about the regional, situations, as we understand what happened in Europe in the past. And of course, I think that maybe in the past, especially from Czech side, always difficult to find how is a real understanding about the real China, because always people want to just look at China through we call the classes of ideology, or always maybe just a few Czech Republic people come to China, but they just think about China, okay, just like this or just like that. So I think it's a very, very big obstacle.
What about China? Would that be the same?
Yes,
also,
certainly.
with seeing Czech Republic with a certain kinds of perception?
Yeah, I think from Chinese side, to some degree, we are neglected to some degree, Czech Republic, because anyway, it's distant, and anyway, it's a small country. It's just with 10 million people. It's just like population like a Chinese city. So I think this time, of course, I think some political obstacles is cleared, and for China and the Central and Eastern European countries, including Czech Republic, now we are in a stage to rediscover each other and look each other as a new opportunity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Rediscovering each other, Mr. Kohout, how much of rediscovering each other between China and the Czech Republic has to do with rediscovering of itself by the Czech Republic on the European continent rather, and also in your relations with the rest of Europe, for example, with the EU as well?
I have to say that it's really the last years are the rediscovering each other, and it was a very natural phase in our relations last 2 decades, I would say, before this entering new phase, because the Czech went through the reforms and reoriented after the changes here, mainly for being a member of the EU and the NATO, and somehow disappeared from the world stage and in many countries, and among them, of course, in China. So we are really now rediscovering in Czech the current contemporary modern China. And the same, I think, it's also for Chinese. For many, many years there was no direct flight between Beijing and Prague, and only now we have for last couple of months. So I think that the Prague is becoming more prominent in the let's say the plans of the tourists from China coming to Europe. And of course, as was mentioned, the culture is one of the keys how to open the souls and spirit of other countries, other nations.
All right. We also have Mr. Wye with us coming from Chatham House. I understand that now our connection is okay. Mr. Wye, help us to understand, Czech's choice in terms of its relations with the European Union. It is still not yet a member of it. Well, at the same time, it is one of those prominent ones already in Central and Eastern European, among Central and Eastern European countries. Help us to understand your understanding of Czech's status now in Europe, and what would that mean when it's eager to establish a much better and closer relations with China?
Well, I think the Czech Republic is clearly an important member of the European Union and sees itself and its foreign policy very much within that context. And of course, China's relations with Europe have improved considerably in the last few years, and all these things are coming together. As you were talking earlier about people rediscovering each other. These new communications, not just the physical ones of the Silk Roads, but also all the different ways that people are communicating with each other now, I think is opening new opportunities for deeper both understanding and cooperation between various countries. And I think in terms of the European Union's policies towards China and the Czech Republic's position there, it is an important one because it's one of the most developed of the CEE countries. It has strong links with both Western Europe and Eastern Europe, and as people have said, can act as a kind of bridge between the two, linking the two, not necessarily in a passive way, but in a very active way of encouraging further interactions.
Mr. Wye, you understand very well that before, during, for example, during the Bush administration, there has been certain kinds of phrases being given to those that are traditional capitalist countries, developed economies inside Europe, and those coming from the former Soviet bloc. It was being named as the old Europe and the new Europe, so-called. Of course, we might not necessarily agree with those terminologies. Having said that, though, what is the role now Central and Eastern European countries play in the overall economic situation of the European Union, for example, and also its role in some of the most important decisions the European Union is facing right now, for example, about migration issues, about future currency coordination issues. Many of these, what is the role it is playing?
Life is becoming very much more difficult, you're absolutely right, for the European Union in the last few years. We have had these big challenges of the financial crisis, we have big challenges from migration, and the countries of Central and Eastern Europe have a different historical experience to those of Western Europe, but I think the significance or the importance of those differences is diminishing as we are growing more and more closely together, that our future lies in working together rather than in emphasizing the particular differences. And of course we come together on areas like China, where for all the countries in the European Union, and indeed for the European Union as a whole, the development of relations with China is an important aspect.
All right. And before we go, very briefly, from the other two guests coming from the Czech Republic and China, Mr. Kohout, what does it mean for the Czech Republic now to have closer ties with China in your search for your own identity from now on?
I would say that the desire to have much better relations with China than before, it's the reflection of the Czech national interests, and the current President Miloš Zeman and the current government, current coalition government, they are much more in favor of promoting the national interests, like many other countries in Central and Eastern Europe. It doesn't mean that we are somehow against the EU, although we have a lot of criticism as regards the, let's say, the management of the current migration crisis. Nevertheless, the promotion and the effort which we put into the development of relations between Czech Republic and China, and looking at them as the strategic for many reasons.
All right.
So it's clearly the reflection of the national interests.
All right. And Mr. Cui, final words.
Yes, exactly. I prefer to look at this visit by Mr. Xi just as an open, the beginning of the open door for wider cooperation with two countries. It's just not the end.
All right. Very interesting. We're looking forward to more information coming from that front, of course. Cui Hongjian, Kohout, and also Roderic Wye. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us.